if you have lived in your home for 15 years or more, I want you to know something before we get into this conversation about staging. When I walk into a home like yours, the large family photos above the fireplace, the military portraits from decades ago, the wall of grandkids, it tells a whole story of your family just by walking down the hallway. I genuinely love to see that. It tells me that this was a real home, not just a house that somebody lived in. And I always think and say the same things when I walk into the house, that feels like a wonderful place to raise a family and host your grandkids. And you can definitely feel that as soon as you walk in the front door. But here's the honest conversation that I have to have with every single seller that I work with who has lived in their home and loved in their home for a long time. What makes a home feel warm and lived in to you? And what makes a buyer choose it over every single home in their price range are two very different things. And understanding the difference before you list your home is one of the most important things that you can do for your home sale. When I was selling homes in North Texas, I worked with a professional stager named Jeanette. She owned a company called Upstage Homes in the DFW area, and I hired her every listing that I had. Jeanette's background wasn't traditional. She was married to her husband who was in the military, and they moved so many times over the years. She got really good at getting her house ready to sell, and she was so good at it that her friends and her neighbors started asking for her help, and eventually she turned all of these experiences into a business, and she was remarkable at it. Her process was super simple, but it was also really effective. She would spend 2 hours with me and my clients walking through every single room, looking at every single piece of furniture, every single piece of art on the wall, every surface, and she would focus everything on one question. How is this going to look in the photographs? What made her good wasn't just her eyes. She was such a joy to be around. She had the best stories. She'd seen it all. I mean, she'd moved so many times. She had so many clients over the years. So when she suggested moving a piece of furniture over here or taking this art and putting it over here, it wasn't because she was guessing and she thought, maybe this will work. She actually knew. And that's where our buyers are deciding today. They're not deciding at the open house or the walkthrough. They are finding your house online, and they're looking at every single photos, every single listing. They scroll through late at night, looking at 10, 15, 20 homes in their price range. And while they're scrolling, if they don't like what they see, they're not going to schedule a showing at all. One of my favorite sellers that I had in Texas is a guy named Gary. He was 82 years old when we sold his house, and he had decided that it was time for a change. He wanted to leave DFW and go to Michigan, to be in a small town with lots of trees, close to a river, and just have some peace and quiet. So before I met Gary, maybe 5 or 6 months before, his wife had passed away. And when I walked into his home, her presence was still everywhere. She still had her recliner in the living room. Her arts and crafts room was still set up with all of her sewing stuff. Every room in the house had been painted some like bright, cheery color. It was different in every single room. And it was one of the most personal homes that I had ever walked into. And it was probably also one of the hardest staging conversations that I have ever had, because I wasn't just talking about paint or furniture. I was talking about her. And the best part was that Gary had such a strong desire to get to the river, to move on to his next chapter. He wasn't as attached to everything as I thought he might be. He listened. He packed things away carefully and with love, and we sold that home in 34 days. I think about Gary when I work with sellers who've been in their home for a long time, because I understand that what I'm asking you to do is not small. I'm asking you to let go of a home that you've been in for a long time before it's actually gone. And that's takes a little bit of grace. So, a few things that I see most often when I am in homes that have been loved and lived in for 15 years or more, but quietly work against the seller are number one, like big, heavy furniture. So, furniture that made sense when you bought it, right? A large sectional, a huge dining set, maybe some oversized bedroom pieces. They make the room feel smaller than they actually are, especially in the photographs. The buyers, when scrolling through these, they can't always tell if the room is like 12 feet wide or 18 feet wide, but what they can see is that it feels crowded. So sometimes even moving like one or two large pieces into storage completely changes how the room photographs. Number two is a little bit of a tough one, and that is family photos. So I know this is super personal. Those photos matter. They're important. Your military portraits, your grandkids throughout the years, your big family photo that you got taken, they all need to be packed away with care, not thrown into a box at the last minute, because they deserve better than that. When a buyer is walking through your home or when they're looking at the photos online, every family photo is a quiet reminder to them that this home belongs to somebody else. And we need them to imagine their family living there, their life in those rooms, their family making those dinners or hanging out in the backyard. And it's hard to do when your family is on every single wall in the house. So pack them up early, store them with care. They're going to go right back up on the walls in your next home. The last thing that I want to talk about is your collections and your knickknacks. So 15 years, you've been in your house a long time, and most of us accumulate things that we love. Decorative pieces, collections, items that have a story that's yours. And I say this as a person who collects things that I love. This is probably one of 50 dachshund items that I have in my house. Every single room has a dachshund. You cannot escape them. And if I were going to sell my house tomorrow, I would pack every single one of these little guys up, including this one. So I'm not asking you to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. But in your home that you're selling, every surface that is covered is a surface that a buyer can't mentally make their own. The goal is breathing room, open surfaces, clear spaces, just enough warmth that makes it feel like a home without making it feel like it's somebody else's home. So here's how I think about this conversation with sellers who've been in their home a long time. We're not going to erase your life. We are editing our presentation so that buyers can actually see themselves in this home, and they can actually see the home for what it is. It has good bones, it's well maintained, and it's real space that will belong to them, not to someone else. Your memories don't get packed away, just the evidence of them do. And the sellers that I've worked with who've done this thoughtfully, who've taken the time to do it before they list, they always feel better about it afterwards. The home shows better, it photographs better, and it tends to spend less time on the market. Which, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that matters a lot in this market. If you are thinking about selling your home in Central Oregon and you're not sure where to start with your presentation, I'd love to walk it through with you. No pressure, no obligation, just a conversation about what makes sense for your specific home on your specific timeline. The link to schedule is below in the description. And if this was helpful, please subscribe. I make videos specifically for Central Oregon and the homeowners who want to understand the market before they make any sort of decisions. I make the new videos every week, and I'd love to have you here.